Indiana falls 73-64 at Oregon. The Hoosiers squander a quad one win opportunity out west. Peegs.com's Jeff Rabjohns, Trevor Andershock, Jerry Kelly here to break it all down. Rabby, this is a game that Indiana was battling the whole way. It was a one possession game most of the way. Indiana actually led for a couple minutes there down the stretch, but Jackson Shelstad hit like a 40-foot three-pointer that basically put Oregon ahead for good. Lot to talk about with this one. Indiana missed free throws. They missed a whole bunch of layups. Just what stood out to you, Rabbi, initially?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of different little pieces here. But I think the game was came down to at the end. It came down to this: IU couldn't score for the final 148. They had chances. They turned the ball over. They run kind of a questionable play. I'm assuming it was design play to get McKenzie and Baco a three in the corner. Um, you think you'd run something in that situation, either go inside to your bigs, go to your bigs and run a cutter, or try to get something for Luke Goody. I was very curious decision to have McKenzie and Baco take a three in that situation. So I think to me the biggest thing was they just couldn't close out a game, and the reason they couldn't close it out this time was more about they just couldn't score. They couldn't run offense there in the final 158. They had multiple chances. Trey Galloway hits a terrific three, puts them up, gives them that 64-63 lead. You know, you're right there. You're on the road. When you're on the road in a Big Ten game, really any high level conference game, any P4 game, you got to score down the stretch to win. You got to go take it. Uh, you're going to have on the road in P4, you're going to have some calls go against you. You're going to have some things go wrong. You've got to find a way to go take it at the end. And IU's biggest problem was they couldn't score in the final 158. They end up lose a chance at a quad one win.
Yeah. Trevor, this has kind of been a trend for Indiana here this season, just not being able to close out these close games. And this one tonight, potentially would have put them in the NCAA tournament safely, but obviously that did not happen. The lineups I wanted to get to because, for the past few games with Indiana having been successful, we saw a lot of small ball, a lot of, Malik Renew and Umar Ballo switching in and out for each other. But tonight, that was not the case, and it kind of seemed to jumble up a lot of what Indiana had been doing successfully in past games.
Yeah, you go two bigs for that long stretch in the first half with Malik Renew and Umar Ballo together. But then you also surround those guys with basically non-shooters. It's not like you're playing Luke Goodyear with him. The lineup was, Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, and Anthony Leal. Basically, none of those guys are known for their three-point shooting. So you're giving them no space while you're playing two bigs. I thought that combination was really strange, and we haven't seen it all season. They go to that in a big game, big situation, and it didn't really work out for them. Second half, we saw similar things, and even to go to that final play Jeff brought up, McKenzie and Baco hit a couple threes in the second half, but he had been sitting for a while until they brought him back in for that final or the main play, I would call it, not the final play. But so to bring him off the bench and expect him to hit a clutch three after he'd been sitting for a few minutes, I thought that was kind of a tough spot to put him in. Like Jeff said, if Luke Goody was in that spot, I think I really like that play a lot better because one, you give Trey Galloway a chance to get downhill, turn that corner, and if not, if that help comes, then you get Luke Goody a wide open shot. I thought overall, in a vacuum, that was a good play, good shot for McKenzie. But when you look at, the situation surrounding the play, that's where, the questions arise and you start second guessing it. But like you said, getting back to just the overall lineups, I thought we did not see him optimize it like we had during this, three-game winning streak coming into it. We never saw that really high performing lineup of Miles Rice, Trey Galloway, Luke Goody, um, who is usually Ballo
Yeah.
and Leal together tonight, and that had been working so well for him, and we didn't see him go to it very often tonight, if at all.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
quite
and
honestly.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was just gonna say, quite honestly, Indiana defensively, I didn't think played terribly. The first half was a little up and down. They got it together second half. Held Oregon at under 40% shooting from the field, 24% from three-point range. And besides Shellstad's, deep, deep, deep three in the second half, they hadn't made a three-pointer the whole half there. But these late game collapses, I'm curious your take on them because it's been a problem all season. Indiana, it seemed like they kind of got it together, in the back half of the Big Ten season. But tonight, it seemed like those kind of demons came back for Indiana.
Yeah, I think it goes back to a lot of it's what Trevor mentioned about lineups. When we see Indiana play well for better part of 3 games in a row, Penn State or Purdue, Penn State, Washington, if you want to go in order, and that lead, kind of their winning time lineup that you wrote about the other night. Um, it just makes a lot of sense. Not only does it make sense, it's now proven to be productive in multiple Big Ten games. So I think not going to that was certainly a very, very questionable decision because it wasn't like they had some other lineup that, oh, hey, these other 5 really got it going tonight, so we're going to ride who's hot tonight. Which, if that was the case, that's understandable. But I also think, like, as far as the execution down the stretch, you go back to the confusion there at home. The ball gets thrown into the corner to Miles Rice. He's got nowhere to go. It's kind of like, what exactly was that play? You just wonder about, like, how much does IU really, really work on specifics of late game execution? I think it's a legitimate question. Everybody's going to have, it's college basketball. You're going to have some bobbles here and there. You're going to have some mistakes. But when things happen 3, 4, 5, 6 times, then that becomes a pattern. Once, okay; 2, hey, you better fix it; 3, starting to see a pattern. So it's definitely a pattern, and I think there's questions about, like, how much are they really fully prepared to? Okay, in the last 4 minutes, we're going to do this if it's close. In the last 2 minutes, we're going to do that if it's close. Under 30 seconds, Bo Ryan was one of the best that we've seen in a long time. There have been others, but as far as they would work on, under 2 minutes, under 1 minute, under 30 seconds, special situations. It was a big part of practice and preparation. And you look at Indiana and just, sometimes things work out for them, but a lot of times they haven't. So it's certainly one of the themes of the season that Indiana has had multiple games where they had a chance, couldn't close it out in the last minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, basically winning time of the game.
To piggyback off that kind of not knowing what to do down the stretch or knowing the game plan at least, after an IU missed shot, Miles Rice commits a foul with about a minute to go, down 4, and Casey Jacobson even brought it up. He kind of looked to the bench saying, is that what we wanted to do? Foul right away, 2-possession game with about a minute to go. That was up in the air, but this late in the season, you should know that. I mean, those late game situation scenarios should be drilled into players' heads by this point, and obviously it is not.
No, that's a good point. And I did want to go back to that too, Trevor, because you mentioned Miles Rice. He's a guy that struggled tonight, just 1 of 7 shooting from the field, 1 of 5 from 3-point range. Mackenzie Mbako, 2 for 10 from the field. He did hit those 2 threes that helped Indiana take the lead in the second half, but overall not a good night for him. Malik Renew, 4 for 12 after having a really good stretch of games there. It
Yeah.
seems like too this season something that's plagued the Hoosiers a lot has been an inability to keep guys consistently successful all year. And tonight, that was a big part because it's going to be tough to win games, when Mbako, Rice, and Renew, those 3 can't get going at all.
Yeah, and we kind of figured, it would be a little bit tougher to score on a regular basis against this Oregon defense, just because you do have Nate Biddle inside, good shot blocker, just overall a little bit a step above what IU has seen in these past 3 to 5 games in terms of, actually 2-point defense, especially in the lane. Really difficult for Malik Renew to score inside tonight because of that size and the shot blockers coming to help. Like, he overpowers guys that are like size or smaller against, more length and more athleticism. He does struggle, and we saw that tonight. They just never were able to get consistent, easy looks going to the basket. And I thought that played a major part in Oregon's win tonight.
Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of played into all of this was, Indiana played 2 bigs for a couple different extended stretches, but they never were able to really get much going as far as offensive rebounds. They got outscored 23 to 13 on second chance points, and if you're going to play 2 bigs, you got to get something offensively from it, and they really didn't. 13 offensive boards, just, I don't know, kind of a pedestrian number. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, 13 offensive rebounds, but only 13 second chance points. Oregon gets 15 offensive rebounds, but gets 23 points off of them. So Indiana, by playing two bigs, there wasn't really some sort of massive differential there. You look at points in the paint. IU wins by two, 20-18. Not much of a differential there. Or I'm sorry, 32-28, 4 point differential on points in the paint. But again, not anything really big that won it for him. And another thing, obviously, that's going to get some discussion is the free throw differential. Indiana goes 3 for 7, Oregon goes 19 for 21. 7 attempts versus 21 attempts. Certainly, that's a pretty big differential. I think that's going to get some discussion, and understandably so. But again, we've all seen Big Ten basketball for years. Sometimes the whistles, call them bad, call them homer, call them whatever you want. These things happen in Big Ten road games, and you got to find a way to fight through it. I'm not saying it's fair, right, whatever. I'm just saying we've all seen these free throw differentials before. You got to find a way to fight through it. But it is a piece of the overall story of this game. One team getting 7 free throws, the other team getting 21.
I actually did want to get your thoughts on that too, Trevor, the foul trouble, because that was something that was floating around after the game a lot. Just Oregon finished the game with 5 fouls in the second half. There were some questionable ones there late. Did you feel that the game kind of was refereed towards Oregon? Obviously, like Rabbi mentioned, the free throw differential was obviously a big part in that.
No, I mean, I don't think there was any major differences. It didn't feel like IU was getting cheated on their fouls very much. Like they were definitely fouling Oregon. Now, did Oregon foul IU a couple times where it wasn't called? I think that's more of a possibility. But I thought overall, like when IU was called for a foul, it seemed like they were committing a foul. They weren't getting cheated there. But on the other end, they might have let one or two go that should have resulted in free throws. Then you tack on those late game free throws for Oregon when IU is down. So I didn't think the disparity was like monstrous where it ends up in the final box score, but overall, you got to make your free throws too. IU only goes 1 of 5 in the first half. Renew misses the front end of the 1-and-1 at the very final seconds of the first half. So you make those. I mean, you go into halftime a totally different game if you're tied or even leading. So you definitely have to capitalize on the few that you do get too.
Yeah, just a lot of little things that Indiana was not able to execute, especially in the free throw department tonight. Rabbi, to wrap us up here, going into this game, we knew what the implications were. Potentially a win and in scenario for the Hoosiers, and a win tonight could have even vaulted them to the 9-10 seed line in the NCAA tournament. But now we're looking at a scenario where Indiana has to beat Ohio State at home on Senior Day, and then make some noise in the Big Ten tournament as well. Looking ahead, this is obviously not where Indiana wants to be. They were on the right side of the bubble. We'll see if they still are tomorrow, but they got work to do, especially coming out of this one.
Yeah, I think they got to win two more to feel really good on Selection Sunday. One more might get them in, but you have if all of a sudden you get to the point you got two bid stealers and you're sitting there among the last four in or among the last eight in, and you lose to Ohio State, and then I think you would need to win two in the Big Ten tournament. So I think they need two more wins to feel good. Either two in the Big Ten tournament or beat Ohio State at home and win one in the Big Ten tournament. But I think if they get two more wins, I think they're in. And if they end up facing Oregon in the Big Ten tournament in that 8-9 game, and they win that one, they could get out of the first four. And I think that would be a nice accomplishment for the team, considering where they were a month ago. I'm not saying getting out of the first four is a good accomplishment for Indiana basketball on the whole. I'm just saying, considering everything that happened, they now have an outgoing coach. There's all kinds of noise around the program. All kinds of things are happening. If they can get to the point where they make the NCAA tournament, they're not in the first four, that'd be a nice way for this group to go out. And, you've got some guys from the state of Indiana who really want to get IU back to the NCAA tournament. And certainly, historically speaking, yes, Indiana should not have to fight to make the NCAA tournament in the last week. But when you look at what's the reality of the situation, where things were 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, They're on a losing skid. All kinds of bad things are happening. For them to get solidly in the NCAA tournament field, I think that would at least be a nice way for this group to finish their careers. But I think it's going to take 2 more wins for them to feel good.
The Hoosiers at 18-12 overall after tonight's loss. They need to take care of business on senior day as if senior day needed any higher stakes. We'll obviously have much more to come from tonight and over on senior day, especially the speeches and everything that goes on after the game there as well. But for now, Peegs.com's Jeff Rabjohns, Trevor Andershock, Jerry Kelly. We'll see you folks over on Peegs.com.